I never thought I'd be the kind of man to sit silently and let the world crumble beneath my feet without a fight. But here I was, sitting in the beach house I paid for, the waves crashing a few yards away, knowing everything I thought I had was a lie. The truth had come out in the worst possible way. My wife was cheating on me, and she brought her lover right to the place I built for us, the place I thought was ours. My name is Adam, and this is the story of how love turned into lust, trust, shattered into pieces, and betrayal stung sharper than any pain I'd ever known. The house wasn't extravagant, just a modest 2-story wooden home nestled on the edge of a quiet cove. I bought it a year ago, scrimping and saving every penny I could, dreaming of the life Clara and I would build there. Sunsets from the porch, family dinners, lazy mornings waking up to the sound of gulls. It was supposed to be our sanctuary. But dreams have a way of turning into nightmares. Clara, the woman I married, the mother of my child, the person I thought I could trust with everything. She was radiant, with bright green eyes that could melt anyone's heart. She smiled in a way that made me feel like the luckiest man alive, or at least that's what I believed. A few months ago, I noticed subtle changes. The way she looked at her phone, the sudden need for secrecy, whispered conversations that stopped as soon as I entered the room. I told myself it was nothing. Stress from work, the pressures of parenthood. I clung to that hope like a drowning man to a lifeline. Then came the messages. I found them late one night, left open on her phone. Can't wait to see you tonight. You're irresistible. I need you. Signed off with a name I didn't recognize. Mark, a stranger, a man who was eating away at my marriage with every stolen moment. I confronted Clara. She tried to deny it at first, but the guilt was written all over her face. Her hands trembled and her eyes darted away, refusing to meet mine. It's not what you think, she whispered, voice barely audible. But I knew. I felt the cold truth settle in my bones. She was lying, and I was losing her. My heart shattered. In silence. I wanted to scream, to rage, to demand answers, but all I could do was watch her slip away, one secret at a time. Then, as if fate had a cruel sense of irony, I met Laura. She was a quiet woman with a haunted look in her eyes, the kind that only pain can etch. We crossed paths at a cafe downtown. I was there one morning, drowning in my thoughts, when she sat at the next table. She was talking on the phone, voice breaking as she spoke about her husband, Mark, the same man who was tearing my life apart. We locked eyes, and the unspoken truth connected us instantly. Two broken souls betrayed by the same man. We shared our stories over bitter coffee, tears, and frustrated anger. We were different, yet painfully alike. Instead of letting despair swallow us whole, we chose to fight. Together, we hatched a plan to confront the lies and take back control. The beach house, our sanctuary, would become the stage for the reckoning. Today was the day. I sat inside the living room, the soft hum of the ocean outside the windows doing nothing to calm the storm inside me. Laura was there too, sitting on the couch, her fingers clutching a trembling cup of tea. Her face was pale but determined, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and resolve. We didn't speak much. Words felt too fragile for what was about to unfold. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast a golden glow across the sand. The salty breeze drifted in through the open windows, carrying the sound of seagulls and distant laughter from nearby beachgoers. It was a picture-perfect day, one that made the betrayal sting even deeper. Then I heard the car pull up, the right crunch of tires on gravel. My heart hammered as the front door opened. Clara walked in, radiant as ever, but this time her smile held a secret. She wasn't alone. Mark followed behind her, his confident swagger and sharp eyes like a predator entering his territory. I swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the sofa. Behind me, Laura's breathing quickened. We were trapped in a cruel dance, two couples tied by lies, lust, and heartbreak, and I was ready. The air inside the beach house shifted the moment Clara and Mark stepped through the door. I could feel it. Thick, heavy, like a storm ready to break. The golden light from outside was swallowed by shadows as tension flooded every corner. Rose slowly, trying to keep my voice steady as I spoke. "Clara?" She turned, a flicker of surprise flashing in her eyes. Then, as if deciding to throw caution to the wind, her lips curled into a provocative smile. Mark mirrored her, his gaze cold, calculating. Laura stood behind me, her face pale but resolute. I could sense her fear, but also the fierce fire that had brought her here today. "This is unexpected," Clara said, voice dripping with false innocence. Mark crossed the room, stepping closer with a possessive air. "Didn't expect you'd be here, Adam." I matched his stare without blinking. "I'm always where I need to be." Clara laughed softly, a sound that used to bring me joy but now twisted in my gut. "You never really knew, did you?" Her words stabbed me deeper than any argument could. "I knew enough," I said quietly. "Enough to see through the lies." Mark's eyes flicked to Laura, and I caught a flash of something I hadn't seen before. Guilt? Regret? No, too faint. Mostly disdain. Laura stepped forward, her voice shaking but firm. "You don't get to use me as your alibi anymore, Mark. It's over." Mark scoffed. "You think you can just walk away after everything?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at me, her eyes full of pain and hope. "I didn't want this. None of us did." I swallowed the lump in my throat, trying to hold myself together. The betrayal wasn't just Clara's anymore, it was Mark's too, and Laura's suffering made it all the more real. "Why here?" I asked Clara. "Why bring him to our home?" Her smile faltered for a moment. "Because I wanted to feel alive again, because you stopped seeing me." The words hit like a slap. I wanted to scream, to tell her she was wrong, that I never stopped loving her. But the truth was tangled up in my own mistakes and neglect. Mark stepped closer, his voice low and threatening. "You had your chance, Adam. Now this is mine." I clenched my fists, feeling the weight of years crumble in seconds. Laura's voice broke through the tension. "This ends today." Suddenly the room felt suffocating. The walls seemed to close in as emotions spiraled out of control. Clara's eyes flashed with anger. "You don't get to play the victim." I shook my head. "No one's playing. We're just broken." For a moment, silence fell. The crashing waves outside felt distant, insignificant compared to the chaos inside. Then, without warning, Clara lunged at Laura. A flurry of harsh words and accusations filled the air, voices rising like thunder. Mark grabbed Clara, pulling her back, his grip fierce but protective. I stood frozen, watching two women I loved tear each other apart. Or maybe themselves. It was a moment that changed everything. When the storm passed, I looked at Laura. Her eyes were red-rimmed but clear. "I never wanted this fight," she said softly. "Neither did I admitted. We both knew that the path forward wouldn't be easy, but standing together, facing the ruins of what once was the only way to begin healing. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire, and inside the truth was finally free. The night settled over the beach house like a heavy cloak, wrapping around us all in silence, thick with tension and unsaid words. The storm had passed, but its traces lingered in the ache behind my ribs and the hollow space where trust once lived. Laura and I sat across from each other in the dim light of the living room. Neither of us spoke much. There were no easy words left. Instead, we shared a quiet understanding, forged from betrayal's sharp edges and the desperate need for clarity. I looked at her, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the lamp, and felt a strange mixture of sorrow and something darker, a flicker of forbidden desire. Lust, tainted by pain. She caught my gaze and didn't look away. "Do you ever wonder how it got like this?" I asked, voice barely more than a whisper. She sighed. "All the time." I used to think love was supposed to be simple. Trust, honesty, connection. But now, I'm not so sure. I nodded, remembering the countless nights I'd lain awake, replaying moments, searching for signs I'd missed. Clara, Mark, us. All tangled in a web of lies and lust. The ache inside me wasn't just heartbreak. It was jealousy, rage, and a twisted hunger for something I couldn't name. I still see her sometimes, I said, voice cracking. Even after everything, the way she smiles, the way she touches you, it haunts me. Laura's eyes softened. I know, I see him too. The man I married is gone. What's left is someone I barely recognize. We were both prisoners of their choices, unwilling captives to a love turned toxic. The room seemed to shrink as memories flooded in, stolen, moments, whispered secrets, the betrayal laid bare on the floor between us. Do you think we'll ever get past this? I asked, desperate for hope. She shrugged, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. Maybe, but only if we stop living in the shadows of their lies. I wanted to believe her, to imagine a future where trust could grow from ashes. But the truth was harder to swallow. That night, as I lay awake staring at the cracked ceiling, I wrestled with my own demons. The pain wasn't just theirs. It was mine. I had failed Clara, failed Laura, and most of all, failed myself. I had loved with blind eyes, ignored the warning signs, and now paid the price. But beneath the heartbreak was something else. A fierce determination to reclaim what was lost, to find meaning in the wreckage. Tomorrow, I decided, I would confront the mess head on. I wouldn't run. I wouldn't hide. Because even when love turns into lust and trust breaks apart, there's still a chance to rise. Morning arrived with a fragile light slipping through the curtains. The world outside seemed unchanged. Calm waves, salty breeze, gulls calling in the distance. But inside me, everything was fractured. Laura and I hadn't slept. Neither have I. Us wanted to be alone with our thoughts. We sat at the kitchen table, cups of cold coffee in hand, the silence between us filled with memories too heavy to speak aloud. The truth was clear. The four of us were bound together by a cruel chain of mistakes and desires, and today, that chain needed to be broken. Clara and Mark were still here, somewhere in the house. I wasn't sure if they were asleep or awake, hiding behind their own walls of denial and guilt. I looked at Laura and said, "We need to talk, all of us. No more secrets." Her nod was slow but determined. We found Clara and Mark in the living room, their expressions wary, unsure what to expect. I spoke first, voice steady but laced with years of hurt. "This ends now. We owe it to ourselves and to the truth to face what's happened." Clara's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I'm sorry, Adam. For everything." Mark looked away, shame flickering across his face. "I never meant to hurt anyone." Laura's voice was firm. "We all made choices, now we have to live with them." The conversation that followed was raw and painful, words laced with anger, sorrow, and moments of unexpected honesty. We talked about love lost and trust broken, about the hunger for something more, and the devastating cost of betrayal, and as the hours passed, something shifted, not forgiveness, not yet, but a fragile understanding. I realized that lust had blinded us all, pulled us into a spiral of desire that left destruction in its wake. But love, real love, requires more. Courage, honesty, and the willingness to face the hardest truths. As I watched Clara and Laura, two women I cared about deeply, I knew the road ahead would be long and uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe. From this brokenness, we could all find a way to heal. The beach house, once a symbol of dreams shattered, could become a place of new beginnings. I didn't know what the future held, but I was ready to find out.